It's so interesting that we're unpacking this conversation around brand, because I think of an entrepreneur that I was recently having a conversation with, and they were like, I have over indexed in the brand of their business. And so as a result, over the years, they've been throttled in social media. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to pay to play to get more brand awareness, if you will. And I was like, but what about your brand as the entrepreneur, as the visionary, as the thought leader? They're like, well, I haven't really given that much consideration. And so as the tide continues to shift, it's almost like what is old is new again, except the mediums in which we're communicating brand and brand awareness and building that is going to continue to shift. My question though is, what do we do? What does an entrepreneurial leader do when it comes to these shifts, these changes? Because it can feel confusing and complex.
Yeah. So in the book, we really drive home four what we call pillars of a known and trusted brand. All right. And so if you're saying to yourself, okay, I do want to be known, I do want to be trusted, what am I going to have to do? Well, you can't do it like everybody else. And specifically, here's the four things that you got to do. And we can break each one down because there's a lot of like little, interweaving elements to this. But number one, you got to be willing to say online what others in your space are not willing to say. If I asked you, as you're listening to this right now, what are you saying online that literally your competitors, they don't talk about? If you can't say anything, that's a problem. So you got to be willing to say what others aren't willing to say. Talk about what others are willing to talk about. That's number one. Number two, you got to be willing to show with video what others in your space are not willing to show. You got to start to think like a media company, act like a media company, and get really dang serious about video. I've been saying this for years, but it's more important than it's ever been. And as Google goes down in its impact, YouTube is going to go up, and video in general is going to go up in its impact in terms of you becoming known. That's number two. Show what others aren't willing to show online. Number three, you got to be willing to sell in a way that others aren't willing to sell. And a lot of companies, JR, they think they're like good at selling differently. But when you really get into the nuts and bolts, most companies sell just like their peer. So you can't be like everybody else in terms of the way you sell. So we can talk about that. And then finally, number four, you got to be more human online than others are willing to be. There's got to be a face, to your point, a face behind the brand. There's a reason why individual brands are so much bigger than the biggest of company brands. Like everybody knows who like the Kardashian girls are or the Jenner girls are, right? But not everybody could tell you the name of their brands of like makeup or whatever the thing is that they sell. And so that's the difference between a personal brand and then the company brand. And so to what you just said a few minutes ago, JR, folks have to start realizing if my business is going to be successful, I too personally have to build a known brand.
If you want to keep learning from videos like this one, I recommend you check out this video right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast conversation, you can click here.